Well, at least the water and sewer department's here. Harper in here. Guys are on the ball.
Said he's ethical enough.
What's that?
Harper said he's ethical enough.
He's ethical enough? Okay.
He is.
Good. Good. Okay. This is a work session of council. So I'd like to open it up for January 30th, 2019 with a roll call.
Councilperson Tony Abbott.
Here.
Councilperson Aaron Cook.
Here.
Councilperson Mel Davis. Person Randy Abner.
Here.
Councilperson Paul Seymour Jr.
Here.
City Attorney Del Weldon.
Here.
And Mayor Kelly Milan. And myself.
Okay. You guys have had a copy of this. I think what we wanted to do tonight, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we wanted to start going through it section by section to determine, you know, what kind of wording you guys want and how you want it to be worded, or deleted or added to. And what we'll do, I mean, I don't know how long this will take, but we'll take an hour, and if we don't get through it, we'll come back and revisit the remainder of it until we get it and get it right, or get it the way everybody wants it. How's that?
Mayor, can I make a copy of yours real quick?
Sure.
Or do you have notes on there?
No, you can be.
I think you have that. Bring has either.
Yeah, go ahead. Anybody else need
Gotta
one?
make three.
Okay. Anybody else?
I know where mine's sitting at, but it ain't here.
You guys can try and start with that. I'm gonna
Oh,
be
we'll
right
wait on you. We're good. No water main breaks out there, right, today? Well, I won't say nothing. I'm sorry. I don't want to jinx you. I'm sorry. Yeah.
What's his first name?
Yeah, coming up.
Joe?
Really?
Yeah, I get it. Really? Were you back there when they were digging Maggio's up behind? Okay.
I did stop by and take a look at it.
I heard it was on his side though. It ends up being on their side.
Let me ask you something, Garrett. At the dollar store, when that water line broke there, right where you pull in, I asked if that was our responsibility or dollar stores to fill that back, because that hole's getting pretty deep. Everybody just drives around it, and I heard it was our responsibility.
That is definitely our responsibility to look at one a couple of times and get settled.
Mm-hmm.
Last time I knew it was on the list to be repaired, because we don't move concrete.
Yeah.
So
Can we throw some more dirt gravel in there or something?
Did your phone
Because
tell you or your watch tell you to get up and walk
it's
around a
getting
little
pretty
bit?
deep. I hit it the other day. I usually drive around it. I didn't think about it. It's like boom, boom.
You need one?
I've had some other people complain about it.
If I sit down too long, my watch will
Thanks.
start buzzing. And say, you need to get up and move.
Oh yeah, yeah. I don't have.
Put
them.
Bobby to work
My
shoveling some gravel
wife's
in it.
got one.
When you get old, you don't have to worry about that shit.
Get any heat over in the house? Get any heat over in your house? Do you? That's good.
Get the propane tanks in there, regular heat.
No,
Get
I got
straight-
the furnace.
Get your furnace in there.
We're about
How much longer?
I can't move in until I got a fence up and sod.
Oh, dogs.
I got dogs.
Dogs.
How many dogs you got?
I got mutts.
Mutts.
Yeah.
How many mutts you got?
They came back, right? You found them.
I got Regine's daughter that seems to want dogs,
And then you get them.
and then we get them. Now they're, I don't mind it.
Yeah.
Hell, they're 10 years old. We've had them a long time.
Like one of the family now.
Well, you know, but she's often mentioned, well, I think we're gonna buy the kids the dogs, and you ought to hear Regine go off.
Oh, I can't imagine.
You ain't buying, you ain't a pet owner. You don't know how to take care of them, and she just gives her hell. boy.
Get that saw down. That'd
Wait,
be
my
bad.
Chelsea and Kurt are like that.
Really?
They should not be pet owners.
Well. it
They got
takes-
one now still because nobody else will take it.
It takes a lot of effort.
It does.
Regine's good with dogs. but
Yeah.
We can't
It is a lot of effort though.
think about it right now.
Better ask my wife. That dog.
I just, no. We have little dogs all the time. Shih Tzu, you know those. We had one that was, well, we had two, and one of them died about 2 years ago, 13 years old, and then the one we got now that's left is like 10 years old. But the best dog, I mean, it was easy to train. And she's, every time I come in, she's ready to get up on your lap and just sit there for the night. And,
Did you get enough copies, Aaron?
Yeah, the copy ran out of
Sleep in
paper, but it
bed
took me so
with
long.
it.
I had to restock it.
Okay, got it all, guys?
thank you.
All right, you bet. So, I mean, outside of, I think we can go directly down to what, 38.01? And
I think in 38.01, I don't remember any issues there. I know that council expressed some concern in 38.02, and that would have been in regard to, stop me if I'm wrong, but let me find it here, changing the definition of a relative. I think there were some issues with that. Andy Lyons is here, and I would want to point out Andy Lyons is here, Garrett Kavanaugh is here. I thought there'd be more, I don't know, community members or workforce here to express some concern or issues or just bring the ideas to the table. So that's kind of, but I'm glad that Garrett and Andy came. Andy had expressed some concerns via email to me, and he's going to have those here today. But that was one of his concerns, was the definition of the word relative. I will say that he submitted an idea to change that to immediate family means a spouse, dependent, brother, sister, stepbrother, stepsister, parent, or step-parent of an employee, officer, or elected official, or his or her spouse. Again, that would be at the definition of relative change to immediate family in Part 38.02.
I mean, aren't we already covered on that, so to speak? Is there a
Nepotism.
definition on relative that comes from the state?
Yeah, relatives define. So we already have immediate family in the definition section, and then we have relative also defined. All these definitions come from the state. All of these rules and laws come from the state of Indiana, and so the state has its own ethics rules that are codified, and they don't apply to cities and towns, so we just are taking their state rules and applying them locally.
Right. The idea wasn't really to change the definition of relative to delete it and put immediate family in there. At least that wasn't my idea. Was that the use of the term relative throughout this document, that the definition of relative is so broad and this community is so small that it's virtually impossible for that to always be a solution.
Well, it's not broad. I mean, it's defined. And so the question is, if we're talking about relatives, the question is, with any of this, what do we want? Do we want to say to the community, hey, you guys already think we're giving stuff to our family members, we're giving money and property and doing business with our family members. Do we want to make that against the law in Lawrenceburg from now into the future, or do we not? Relative means grandfather, grandmother, father, mother, stepfather. And again, this is from the state. I didn't make this up. Stepmother, brother, sister, stepbrother, stepsister, uncle, aunt, husband, wife, son, daughter, stepchild, father-in-law, mother-in-law, son-in-law, daughter-in-law, grandchild, step-grandchild, niece, and nephew. So,
should add neighbor.
well, it can say whatever you guys want it to say.
Right, and I'm not proposing to change the definition of relative, because I looked it up at the state level, and you're exactly right. That's how the state defines relative. I am proposing that the use of the term relative throughout this document be changed to immediate family. So where there's a conflict of interest, that just for instance, this includes the elected or appointed official, their relatives, and any business, blah, blah, blah. Instead of saying and relatives, it would say and their immediate family.
Not change the definition piece, but change the context in the rest of the document, wherever it comes up. So we probably need to look at those. Let's take this. I mean, and I'm not trying to sidestep this at all, but I think in order for us to just get through this in a systematic, methodical way, is there anybody that has a problem with the definition of any of the definitions?
I don't know. I don't have a problem with the definition. I thought maybe if immediate family was going to be used in place of relative throughout the document, that immediate family definition might need to be expanded a little.
Say,
Andy,
because
can you
immediate
turn your
families
mic
are
down
a
a
lot
little bit?
smaller.
Right,
We will let
right
you.
now, aren't we covered as, if I'm thinking right, you can't hire somebody that's gonna be under your direct leadership. Is that the way that we read now?
There's a
That's
nepotism
a
law.
nepotism law, yeah.
That's the nepotism law. Why do we have to go any more than beyond that? Because Andy's absolutely right about one thing, and companies have gotten very good over the years. You hire good people. Well, if a good family's got good people in it, and the nepotism law covers that, then why should we, for instance, if Andy had somebody that was good, why couldn't we hire that person in a different location? We are smart.
We can hire Andy's family, we just couldn't hire any of our family members. Because we're in charge of the city.
Oh, okay, but why should, we'll just use me as an example, and Travis is a perfect example. Mm-hmm. Why should a young fellow like Travis be kept from getting a job because he now all of a sudden is my relative because he chose to be with my daughter, and I ran for office if I choose to do everything right and stay away from the decision making?
Well, and that's a good example. And I know Travis, and Travis is a friend of mine. Travis is awesome personally. He's awesome professionally. But ethics rules, so ethics are rules that are above the minimum. They're above what's required. You don't have to have them. You don't have to have any ethics rules. And we haven't ever had any ethics rules. Ethics rules are not what do you have to do, it's what should you do. And for decades, the city's always gotten a bad rap. Everyone thinks we only hire our friends and family. We do business with our friends or family. Whether it's true or not, it's the perception. And that's what ethics rules do. They say, well, you can look up online in the city of Lawrenceburg and say, well, they don't hire their friends and family because it's against the rules. You guys don't have to pass this, but that's what the idea is behind ethics rules in other cities and other towns and in the state. So you can restrict it, you can delete it, you can expand it, whatever you guys want to do.
I think our nepotism law covers all we need. But the conversation's there, let's have it. I would say I don't want no part of that because it eliminates possibly too many good people.
It only really eliminates our families and a few people in the office. Like he said, Andy's family can be hired as long as they're not in direct line of supervision, or something like Andy's child can be hired in Civil City or whatever. It only affects us, the people that make this decisions, especially you being on Board of Works.
And I think that's why it's in there.
I just don't think that's right because, and I'll use myself as an example. I took myself out of the position to where I had anything to do with Travis's employment, and I made that clear. And you, Aaron, I'm sure you got some family, possibly Tony or Andy or somebody. The next person that runs for this might have it, but as long as we do the smart things and stay out of the decision-making process and we're not their direct boss, I just don't understand why we need anything more than what we do. And I'm speaking, Travis is in there. Travis is hired. I think I did everything right, but what I'm worried about is that person that might be a good hire, and all of a sudden because somebody got elected up here, now we can't hire them. Now we can't think of hiring them because we're a councilman.
Well, and so Travis is an example, Dee's an example, and you're right. Travis was, you didn't do anything wrong. No one did anything wrong in hiring Travis. No one did anything wrong in hiring Dee. And if we pass this, they're grandfathered in. Nobody's going anywhere. But let's say the next city council, they want to hire their wife to run the pool. Their next city council, a really good job is up. Everyone in the city applies for it. You know how jobs are here. I mean, they're coveted. They're the best jobs in the country. And hundreds of people apply for them. We have a really stringent hiring process. You know, we tell the public, this is above board, we're only hiring the best. And our relative might be the best person, but how does it look to the community when we hire a relative? That's what ethics means. And that's what this extra would be.
So this would include summer help also?
Does not include summer help and does not include people who currently work here.
Well, wouldn't D be included like summer help?
I think D would be, to me, she would be covered both, grandfathered in and or summer help.
'Cause, I mean, I don't see why we can't, hire our own family in for summer help. That's always been done.
Yeah, I put in an exception for summer help.
Yeah, because I think when I was on the board of works last time, I mean, almost every kid got hired that applied at the high school, don't they?
Yeah.
For summer help.
And I think that's totally fair. I mean, everyone's
Yeah,
kids should be able to work for summer
they
help.
shouldn't be cut out just because they're related to us.
Yeah, it's specifically, that's something I did right by myself was.
I will tell you this, I've been approached by the foreman that there are some kids they don't want to invite back.
Yeah, I've heard that before too.
And I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Community's so small, I mean, it's hard to.
Yeah, like-
Except when Nutty wasn't mayor when I started, but he got mayor 4 years after me. Have you been mayor with some of his cousins? But it's been a shame for me to miss out on the job because he was mayor.
Well, cousin wouldn't.
He would have nothing to do with that.
You're a dud.
If you guys
Just
want to do this,
Cousin, I don't think Cousin's in here even.
Yeah, cousin wouldn't count.
Cousin's
here.
not in here.
if you guys want to do this, really, I got no problem with it, but I think Andy's right. We got to tighten it up a little bit. It's got to be immediate family. It can't go down to this cousin and reaching out like this.
Cousin's not in here.
Right. It stops just short of cousin.
And immediate family's already defined in here somewhere, yeah.
Yeah.
It's immediate family's individual spouse, independent. That's what most people consider immediate family.
Well, and
On
I think what
application,
Andy is suggesting is just be changed in the remainder of the document in certain places.
Right. I would expand the definition of
where it
immediate
says
family.
relative, make it immediate family.
I would expand the definition of
And we
immediate
probably
family
need to look at those
to
on an
spouse,
individual
brother,
basis.
sister, stepbrother, stepsister, parent,
You want to explain it better.
dependent.
But-
And then use immediate family in place of relative throughout the document.
But is that going to create an argument? Let's say the next round of hiring, now all of a sudden are we going to be in here saying, wait a minute, he can't be implied because he's in the immediate family? Are we going to define immediate family so that doesn't take place?
Well, yeah, we can expand on the immediate family. It's not very expansive in this definition. And so people understand, immediate family means more than,
To me, it should mean father, mother, brother, sister, period. I don't know what else you'd put in there.
because it just says, well,
Spouse and kids.
Dependent.
yeah,
That's all it says right now.
what it says is spouse and and
Yeah.
their kids, but it really is more expansive than that. Immediate family is. It's brother, sister. Because that's the way it is defined when funeral leave.
So you guys are saying, because the reason that immediate family and relative are both in there, because there are a couple instances where it's less restrictive, where, your stepfather could interact with the city, but we could make relative less expansive or immediate family more expansive, and then just use one definition for relative.
I would delete relative from the entire document, including the definition. The state defines it the way that it's in here, so I wouldn't even touch on that. I would expand immediate family to spouse, brother, sister, stepbrother, stepsister, parent, step-parent, and dependent.
So you would take out grandchild, step-grandchild, niece, and nephew?
I think that's too far. I think aunt, uncle is too far. Niece, nephew is too far. Grandchild maybe is too far.
I mean,
We're taking out generations of possibly good hires.
I don't think it's too far. I mean, if I had a grandchild, I would think it'd be nepotism if I hired my grandchild if I was up here.
Well, but see, that goes back to my point, Aaron. The proper thing to do, and here's exactly what I did with Travis, and was you. I
wasn't there at the time. So.
I said, guys, here's his application. I will not interview him. I will not vote for him. Jenny, here's his application.
I was there.
Well, you was there.
You got up.
You tell him what I
You got
did.
up and left. You left that entire situation. I think you went across the street.
Well, and I think that when a person runs for council and he's true to this job, you want to be involved in everything, but you got to be smart enough, and that's a nepotism rule popping in, that I had no decision process in Travis's.
That was for the Civil City job, the Travis's situation. When he interviewed back here in the back room.
Which, by the way, he never got hired.
He never got that job. No.
So I guess my statement to you is Tony, you might have a grandkid someday want to apply at this job. I feel like you're not his immediate boss, and I believe the nepotism rule states that somehow. And I feel like that if you say, hey, I got somebody applying here, and I will not hear, he's not someone that I'm going to be participating in, I think you've done your duty.
So isn't the Board of Works the immediate boss? Doesn't they can hire and fire?
Not for the nepotism rule. So there's a specific, it would seem like that, but it's been specifically excluded that the board of
None of
works.
us are in line with chain of command for anybody then.
Yes, sir, correct.
I mean,
Already fall out of my chair.
Oh, he stole Mel's chair.
Still complaining about that
So I
chair?
gave the bad chair again.
That's what you get when you don't show up. You use chair stolen.
Now he's gonna give it to Mel.
yeah.
Oh, we'll fall
Or
out.
Mel.
Oh, it's a hell of a lot better.
Well, and again, you know, the ethics rules are optional. We don't have to have any of these, or we can have all of them. It's just, and this isn't for us, guys. I mean, this is for 10 years, 20 years from now. What do we want the city? Do we want to solve some of the problems that we've had with the city? You know, the bad reputation that the city has had, fair or unfair. Do you want to fix some of this in this
Well,
ethics ordinance?
in reality, though, I mean, yeah, you're right, Del. Perception is everything, right? But, and, you know, next administration can change it if they want.
Sure.
You know, they have,
I mean, even if
they have the
it's-
ability to change any ordinance you want.
I think they'd have a hard time just, you know.
Well, it wouldn't look good on in the public probably, but I'm just saying it. I think we're gonna, I think we're stuck on this definition. I don't know that we need to take the definition out. I mean, we can leave it there or delete it. It depends what we're gonna do later in the document.
Yeah.
Every place that it's mentioned.
Right.
Right?
Right.
I mean, there might be a place, and I didn't really go back and insert that back in, Andy, what you were talking about, but there may be a place where relative maybe is okay to put there. I don't know, but I think we need
You know what I mean?
to look at that and go from there. If you want to expand upon, I think one question we do need to answer is how do you want to expand on immediate family? I mean, if
you leave relative, do you need to expand on immediate?
well, if you
I'm willing to say we're covered already in the nepotism rule. Do we need it in there at all?
Well, these are definitions, though. This is definitions because of just what goes on throughout the rest of the document.
Okay, I'm good with
But I think going forward, if we start going through the rest of the document, wherever this stuff comes up, we need to decide which word you want to put in there.
Okay.
Does that make sense? I mean, but if we expand upon immediate family, we probably can get rid of relative if relative is not going to be used anywhere else in the document.
Right.
But we don't know if it's not going to be used yet.
Right.
I think we have to go back and revisit it.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
I mean, okay. Is there any other things under the definitions that you guys want to bring up or? We can always go back and revisit that as we go through the rest of the document because we don't know what the rest of the document is going to look like as far as what you want to change or add or delete. So, okay.
Only other thing I've
Yes.
seen under the definitions was sanctions.
Yes.
They're removable from office. I think that would be this part of criminal prosecution if it was something bad enough to do that anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, we talked about that last time, Aaron. So where are we in the document?
Right here at the end of the definitions, in alphabetical order. So
So we're still in two.
yeah.
Okay. Criminal prosecution, you're right, Aaron, that would come from either the state or county prosecuting attorney. Disciplinary action, revocation and suspension of license. So all these things are the possible penalties. Any punishment would need to come from an outside body, except the city does have the ability to impeach one of its members. And so,
Who wants to volunteer?
yeah, if you look at, or I'll pull it up and just go through it with you. In Indiana Code 36466, it lays out the way that city councilman could be impeached. Council may expel any member for a violation of an official duty, declare the seat of any member vacant if the member is unable to perform the duties of the member's office, and adopt its own rules to govern proceedings under this action. A 2/3 vote is required to expel a member or vacate their seat. So if this ethics ordinance becomes law in Lawrenceburg and a member, elected official violates it, then a 2/3 vote could expel that person. Be similar to impeachment.
The only other thing is, are you allowed to bar an individual from future employment with the city?
So where is that? I'm sorry.
Right.
Number 4.
Down from that one.
Under
Okay.
sanctions.
So that was when we were doing some drafts, we were kind of looking at, and I think Richard and Paul might have had commentary on this. If we find that someone's trying to do business with the city and they violated a rule, so some of these rules apply to outside parties where they're regulated in how they can do business with us. And if we find that they've broken a rule, then we could just decide not to do business with them for a year, let's say, or 2 years, let's say, or if someone wants to contract with us or something like that. So that would just be on a case-by-case basis.
So could we change that employment to something like, like you're talking about the contract, like a subcontractor, a contract, whatever you're talking about? Because employment,
yeah.
I figure employment as an employee.
Yeah, no, I think that's fine. Richard, you taking notes?
I am. So we want to take employment out, and we want to change it to subcontractor
Or whatever
contractors.
Just barring an individual from future, I'll think of something that incorporates all of that. So if you just put it,
Something like future contracts with
yeah,
the city.
with our
being able
we'll
to
get
obtain.
together but yeah, that's good. I'm trying to think of any other instance where they could be barred from future employment, and you're right. I think that would cover it.
Well, the only other thing I would say is let's just say that some of the people we have ordering things that are in charge of getting things, employees.
Yeah.
That would be the only other thing. I know it's hard to get rid of an elected official because we've done research on it, but I think that we need to have some kind of discouragement of our employees. There's a lot of things that are gave, and I just want it all ended. We don't need anything from anybody. All we need is a good job out of everybody and services that we pay for.
So give an example of that, because there are a couple of things, but I want to make sure I'm on the same
I'll give
page.
you an example that I lived through. Got a call from Nutsy when he was mayor, and I forget what we were going to go see, but about halfway up to the trip, I got told that, hey, we got tickets to the Colts game, and we're going to go see the Colts tonight. And here I was surrounded with structure point people. That's what I'm talking about, guys.
Yeah.
This is what this is all about for me. Right. All I want is when we're dealing with somebody, whether people realize it or not, all these football tickets, all these dinners and these IAC meetings that they buy the dinners and things that go on, they wouldn't be paying these people to do that kind of work unless it worked.
Yeah.
It works. And all I want is for our people to go to these places and to say, look, Lawrenceburg sent me up here and I don't need your money. All I need out of you is when I hire you a good job. Right. Don't bring me anything.
Right. No, and so that comes up in a couple different ways. So we use Olin as an example. Utility crews getting ready to go to DC for the national conference. So that requires flights, that requires hotel rooms, that requires dinners, and then there are fees, there are registration fees. So registration fees are something that's specifically discussed in the state ethics ordinance and state ethics statute, because a lot of these vendors will pay for the registration fee. It's like $200 or whatever. So if we're going to do that, these trips are very beneficial. When Olin goes to DC, when Mayor goes to the State House, when you guys go on your new council member training, when we all went up to, Indianapolis, those things have to happen. We just need to figure out how we're going to do that. So if we on the one hand want to say that no one can pay for anything for us, that's fine, but we also have to understand then we have to pay for it, which is fine also. But
like when Paul's talking about, because I went to IAC when I first got here, 8 years ago, whatever it was, and I went up there, and Structure Point was buying a dinner, but I didn't go to it. I went to that little mall that took to and had paid for my own food.
Yeah, and I mean, and this ordinance says that already. I mean, this ethics ordinance says nothing over $50, no matter what it is. And I left it at 50.
I don't even like $50.
Well,
zero.
It's because we get pizza and cookies sometimes.
Too much thinking goes on there. The football ticket wasn't $50. The beers he bought me that night wasn't $50. Guys, we give out a travel allowance, and I spent half my life out of town. I work for people. I know how the game works. Personally, I've had it happen to me twice. Once when I just got elected to council, and then when I go to these meetings and see, I don't like it because it's an advantage for the other company. They know how the game works, and I want them to know that Lawrenceburg's not in the game.
I like it. I mean, it goes back to everything we're doing here. We don't take money from anyone. We don't hire family. We don't do business with family and friends. Everything's above board. That's why everything is covered in this ethics ordinance. The only reason I let $50 in is Richard's fault.
Let me speak on that.
Because he gets the best cookies, but those are from Diane. She makes
speak
the
on
better
that.
ones.
Well, we get some from the banks too, and they're good cookies. But let me say this: the $50 clause, I think, is important legally. I could be wrong here, but if you say it's $0, then if I'm talking to somebody at U.S. Bank and they say, "Here's a pen,"
Correct.
then that means that I just took. That you could get me with an ethics violation because I took it, but that's because you made it $0.
You can reach there and grab that pen, and nobody has to offer it to you. And
Well, Savista brought over coffee cups.
$50 is going to get me drunk at every damn place I go. So $50 is a lot. $50 is.
But, again,
to me, it's $0. If I want to buy beer and Kelly wants to buy beer and Dale, I know damn good and well y'all can buy your own beer. I know you can. I know you can buy your own steak. Matter of fact, the city of Lawrenceburg owes you a meal that night. We can pay for it.
Right.
I got to the point to where when my guys would come visit me when I was on the road, we began to develop these relationships, and we liked each other. They'd come and stay with me, and they got hell raised one at a board meeting. And they got told, don't you ever come back to our board meeting and not have a bill from a hotel room. You do not stay in Paul Seymour's travel trailer and have fun that night because it does not look good. My point is the city of Lawrenceburg doesn't need 1 red cent from Structure Point or anybody else, Strand, or I don't mean to single people out, but we know for them to give us a good job.
Yeah.
All I want is a good job out of them people. That's all I want.
Well, not
300%. But I still say, if you make that $0, then I know it's a stretch. I know that it's a stretch, but somebody could make that stretch, and they would have a valid point to do it.
So
I understand, Paul, what you're saying. I completely understand the gifts of the beer and food and everything. But you got to realize, even with the water department, we get calendars, hats, paper, notepads, different stuff, to put in the truck for the job pen holders and stuff like that from vendors around Christmas.
And even though it's a stretch,
they send some of them come through the mail.
He could
some
still
drop off.
Yeah.
I understand that, but that's a far cry from the things that I'm talking about.
Right.
And here's my point to that. I don't know whether to wait or not, but, complaints, I don't know that anything like that would ever be complained about.
So are we down, are we at 38.6 now? We kind of skipped ahead a little bit. Well, can we go to 38.6 and we'll go back? Just because I want to point out, and we can make it, let's make it $10, let's say, just to be safe. But if you look at, that's in part 1. If you look at part 3, it's, and this comes from the state ethics code. We copied almost all this kind of verbatim, but it says mementos or souvenirs such as pens, stationery, keychains, and office supplies, which would include calendars or, those little stress balls, that stuff. I think 3 covers that, but then if we make number 1 $10 instead of $50, then it would cover the rest of it, just in case there was a question. I'm fine with that if you guys are. $15 or whatever.
Personally, I would make it $100, but
yeah, that's
just simply because if you do go out to dinner with a consultant while you're in Indy or wherever you may be, or whether it's here in town, you go to Whiskey's with a consultant that you've met with today. Especially, let me use the out of town. In Paul's example, that the city of Lawrenceburg is gonna pay for my meal that night because I'm out of town on city business. So it really isn't. The consultant isn't garnering any favor from me by buying me a $50 or $60 steak, because I'm not going to pay for it out of my pocket either way. The city's going to pay for it, or this consultant's going to pay for it. And let's face it, you can't hardly have a nice meal for $50 anywhere. So if a consultant buys my $60 meal per this ethic ordinance, it's something that I have to report and answer to. And if I use my company credit card and pay for it, either way, I'm out $0. I haven't gained anything.
But you're looking at it from your point of view, and I got to look at it from this point of view, Andy. I'm sending you out of town. I don't want you doing it, and I'm willing to pay for your steak. And I know for a fact that steak over a period of time influences judgment. I know it does. It shows.
I agree with what you're saying, Paul. I do. But you gotta look at it one other way. I agree with, I don't know if $100 is the right number, but something needs to be put on that. But you are individual votes, right? They can influence you all they want, but if they haven't influenced these 4, they haven't got anything. Does that make sense?
It does.
Maybe I'm not looking at it right. But.
Well, it does make sense, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Give you some examples. Right now, we got a trail bridge that's going to be deemed an emergency, and Structure Point's going to get the job.
How do we know that?
Well, okay. A little while back, we had a sewer problem on Tate Street and Front Street, and it was deemed an emergency, and Structure Point got the job.
Who made that decision?
We made the decision, and I made that decision because I've been trying for 5 years to get that job done, and then all of a sudden, when they decide, well, hell, Paul's going to get it done, hey, if we make it an emergency, we can hire Structure Point to do it.
I don't know why it has to be them. That's what I'm saying. I don't understand.
I'm giving an example
Okay.
because it is them.
Okay. All right.
Absolutely, Kelly. I mean, and if who else gets any work? 3 years ago, we made a comment in here that we wanted to spread around the engineering fees, make it a little bit different. Who else has got any work? Nobody. The answer to that's nobody. It's very visible that we're not entertaining. It was a struggle to get another engineering firm in here to do any work, and the reason is because they contribute.
Yeah, and I think what you just said, Paul, before, and Andy has a great point in Mayor, and that's how it's being handled in Indianapolis. So the law is changing about what lobbyists can do, what companies can do, and they have an annual limit and a per visit limit. and again, this ethics ordinance is about not what is happening, but what it looks like, right? So, Andy and Mayor are both kind of saying, well, if someone buys us dinner, it doesn't change our vote. And that's true. But the question is, does it look like to someone, who lives on Elm Street that maybe it did? So that's what the ethics ordinance does. If we hire a family member, was that unfair? Did we screw someone over to get that job? No. But what does it look like, right? So, that's what all these rules do, and that's why they're important, because not only can we make sure every day that nothing underhanded is happening, which we do, and we're proud of that, but we can also have it on paper, and we can ensure that for generations to come, people can look up the code online and say, Lawrenceburg says no hiring, doing business, family, no taking gifts, no doing any nonsense, and people would feel good about that. So,
I'm gonna be a zero tolerance all the way through this. That's just how I'm gonna feel. I've lived it. I've been on both sides of it.
So I think we're covered. Do we want to lower that threshold to $25 or to $15?
I'd like to make a motion that we put that threshold at 0.
Well, we're not here to make motions tonight. We're just going through the document.
But
we need to make some
changes.
changes.
To make a decision. I'm gonna start off at 0. You guys take it from there. That's what I'm trying to do.
Okay.
And would it be, here's a proposal, would it be acceptable for everyone if I just expanded a little bit the mementos category? Because what I don't want is someone to get a stapler and then someone say, that's a really nice stapler, so now we're, impeaching you off of city council. If we just make that more inclusive so we cover everything. Yeah, and just make it include more of the knickknacks and everyday things.
Yeah, because like Richard said, when he goes to the bank, for an example, say he goes to Savista and he has the popcorn, and here it says food. He can't take the popcorn or whatever.
Yeah, food. So would it be okay if we made, cookies, popcorn, pens, fidget spinners, calendars? We made that okay, but then, made the more expensive stuff's not okay. That's what I'm hearing. I don't know.
Yeah.
That was raised.
Okay.
I would like to make it 0 like Paul, but I want Richard to get his popcorn too.
Thank you, Aaron.
Well, I
Appreciate
think
that.
the momentum of this is fine, and I'm not here to impeach anybody, because I think once we put it in place, the message is sent, and I think everybody just abides by it. It's not that big a deal to any of us. It's really not.
No, I agree. This is a good thing. It's all positive, and it's good that everyone is giving this kind of feedback, because it's just going to make a good thing better. So do we want
to change some of the definitions here?
Yeah,
I'd
take a note.
0?
What did you take a note about before that I asked you to take? I can take notes. I forgot.
Employment.
Employment on sanctions, part number 4.
Okay.
And we would say contractors, subcontractors.
Thank you, Aaron. I'll write that down.
One that popped in my head real quick. Is that for, the chamber is asking you guys to play golf tournaments. They've asked us to go in golf tournaments. And we're going to do business with the chamber. Over the threshold of $0. It's over $3. If it's a piece of course, it's over the threshold of $50. If it's for charities or whatever, and they put the team in, they're really not trying to influence us.
The chamber has a team and they ask you to fill in, or we bought a team and then we ask you to come on?
The chamber has a team.
I've actually played.
Oh, okay.
The chamber before.
See what you mean.
That's only $50.
Yeah, or a chamber dinner or a.
Right, but they're not trying to sell us anything. They're not trying to buy anything.
They're not a vendor.
So could we exclude nonprofits and charity, for dinners
I
and for
think we
golf?
should. We're really wordsmithing this whole thing.
Like I said,
You're slicing. We can put every what-if scenario out there that we want, but
I think
I
you're
agree.
slicing
I know
ours too thin.
exactly where you're going with this, but my answer to that is no. You should
tie our
play.
hands up. We can go to shit.
That's my answer, but I don't know if it's the right
Right,
answer.
so like I said, if you bump it to 100, that would cover the golf area. Paul's saying.
That's,
Don't, you know,
yeah.
you'd have to do something like this.
Well, we,
I see what Paul's saying, because you can't really put the limit, but I mean, you know,
well, chamber is a non-profit, so if you played in a chamber outing for free, fine, but if you played in, you know, a MGP outing, then not fine.
well,
I don't know.
we don't really try to buy anything from MVP either.
They have Tanner's Kick whiskey's good.
there's got to be some
I mean, I guess.
common sense done to this.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
I mean, Kelly, whenever you've said, hey, Paul, would you like to golf in an outing, the city puts us in there.
Yeah,
not the-
yeah, that's true. But I've, you know, like I've been asked before by the, I don't know if it was the chamber or the Visitors Bureau, to play in an outing because they needed a fourth or something, and I didn't play because I couldn't. But that's, I think that's what you're talking about. Is that right? Okay.
I looked up a couple different ethics ordinances in Indiana, and one of them that caught my eye is from the city of Carmel. It's concise. It's well written. I didn't see anything in there that made me want to argue about it. So I would encourage everybody to look at that and see what they thought of that one. It's one that's in place. It's been in place.
Carmel?
It's been Carmel. It's been
Is there
edited.
ethics ordinance, you said?
Ethics ordinance.
Okay.
Code of ethics. But we're running out of time. We're obviously not going to get through this thing.
Well, let me, I'll grab that and email that to all you guys to look at. Were there any other cities you saw any that?
You know, I looked at the city of Indianapolis or
That one's a mess.
Marion, or not, was it Marion County or whatever it is? And it was
Yeah.
it's just huge.
You can tell some bad stuff's been going on when you look at their ethics ordinance.
Yeah.
But I'll look at Carmel. That's awesome.
Carmel's is
Well-
good and it's concise. And like I said, we're obviously not going to get through this. My two things that I had problems with in this entire ordinance, really the two things is the term relatives throughout, and I think the definition of relative is too broad to use the term relative throughout. The other thing that I really don't like at all about this ordinance is the fact that the city attorney is judge and jury solely. There needs to be a board. It needs to be an independent board. It needs to be people who aren't elected officials, for the city of Lawrenceburg at least, people that aren't appointed to any positions in the city of Lawrenceburg,
Or the relatives.
people who aren't not employed by the city of Lawrenceburg, or their relatives. How's that? Or immediate family. But
Let me ask you this, Andy, because I mean, I agree, halfway agree with you. And I need to ask Dale this question. I think it's a legal area, so I ain't crazy about the board, because the only way you're gonna form a board is if we all pick it, so there you go again. What if we were just to have a lawyer, an independent lawyer on retainees to handle these situations? One that is totally neutral, because there's going to be legal stuff going on that a board's going to have to go to a guy anyhow. So I agree with the thought process, but maybe that's something that we could expand on a little more too.
No, and both of you guys are right, and I'll take a look at it again. I may have written it in a way that gives that impression, but I think the city attorney's role in all this would be on the front end to give advisory opinions. That's where the city attorney really comes in. So Mel, say you're thinking, hey, I want to do something, or somebody wants to give me, some popcorn. Is that okay? So you call the city attorney will give you an advisory opinion. This is okay or not okay. On the back end, if there would be an alleged violation, the city attorney has no authority to give any punishment. So your punishment would either be criminal in nature, if someone was really actually committing a criminal conflict of interest, or if there was action that needed to be taken, then the city council would be the only people that could do that. So I'll take a look and make sure it's clear that it says that, but the city attorney would never have any power
and I think that
to take action against someone.
I think that it does say that.
Okay.
But it leaves everything up to the city attorney.
Okay.
Solely. I think there needs to be more than a two-person committee. You know, it should be a
What's
three-person or a
Carmel's
five-person
say?
committee. Pardon?
What does Carmel's?
They have a five-person committee, two are appointed by the mayor and they have to be affiliated with the opposite party of the mayor, and two are appointed by council, and then the fifth person is the township trustee. Is whether theirs is
Well,
worded.
can I make a suggestion? I agree, we're not gonna get through this. Let's take a look at if it's Carmel or somebody else, and let's see if we can merge this to make it a little simpler, but it covers what we need to be covered, right? And then we're not, I mean, you can't plan for every what-if scenario, you just can't.
And no, you can't. I mean, and you know, there's lots of things in this ordinance that I thought, I don't want to say they're an overreach, but they're just unnecessary. I'm talking about ghost employment in here. There's IC code for that. There's laws for that. We don't need to include that in our ethics ordinance. And bribery and complicity, just in different things. Whistleblower laws. You're right. I mean, there's laws already in place. I don't see any reason for us to muddy those waters or expand on them in an ethics ordinance. But
Yeah, Andy, will you send me your edits, and will everyone please just email me your notes and your edits, any format that you're comfortable with. As always, feel free to stop by my office. We can talk about it in person if that's easier or better. Call me on the phone, and once we get everyone's input, then we'll get another draft out for everyone to look at.
All right, well, that's great, but I agree, we don't need to reinvent the wheel. If someone has a ethics policy that's working, then we need to look at that. There's no reason to slice that orange so thin that you can't breathe.
Well, this is the state of Indiana's
Well, the
ethics
state-
ordinance that we
Well, the
copied.
state or whatever, but
I understand your point.
I think we need to,
So we copied someone else's that
On
is
something
working. We didn't do our own.
We don't-
This
Is
is
the
basically
state's
the
working?
states. Yeah, it depends on, yes, that's a good point. Okay, let's do it that way.
No longer than that.
Thank you, guys. This is great input.
Right.
Okay.
Good.
Yeah. All right, we got another meeting here in 8 minutes, so I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor? Opposed? That motion will carry. Thank you. Thanks, guys. Thanks for coming in.
Hey, man, happy to share my time.